Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a very simple little bluegrass style rhythm with a lead part. It's a very simple melody, and how to play and write something like this. That's going to be the real value in this week's lesson, is showing you how to write something so that you can do that with melodies that you already know or melodies that you're trying to write. How do you create a composition like this? It's fairly easy to do, and I'm going to talk you through that, through my thought process for that. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you want to watch the second half and download the tablature for this week's lesson, you can go to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP360. Okay, so today is Friday, and yes, I'm recording this and I'm going to put out the lesson on the same day. That's sort of typical for me. I start writing these things usually on like Tuesday or Wednesday. But last Wednesday, I was sitting down trying to come up with the idea for this week's lesson. I had a rough sketch. I knew I wanted to have a simple melody, but that's about all I had. And so, but by chance, I happened to just think, I should record this. This could be interesting to somebody that's wanting to learn how to, write a song or write a composition. So I did. I recorded that, and I put that video at the end of this video. It's about 6 minutes long, and so I didn't want to start off this video with that. I thought that would be obnoxious to some of you. I know some of you just want to learn the song. So anyway, you can skip ahead to the time on the screen right now, and you can go to that if you want. So all I really knew is I wanted to write a simple melody, and I was thinking of the song Wildwood Flower by the Carter Family. That's one of the classics. It's like a must-know song when you're learning to play guitar, at least around Tennessee it is. Well, or it used to be. I don't know what it is now, but anyway. Just a classic little rhythm and a lead part, and I wanted to write something kind of like that, but a little different feel. I can't rip them off verbatim. I did start off, however, with those same three notes, and so I explained that at that video at the end, and you can watch that if you're interested. But I started off by playing a C chord. Then I took my ring finger off. I just hit that 2nd fret 4th string. And then I came up to the 3rd fret on the 4th string, and then that open G string. Those are the first 3 notes, same as Wildwood Flower. Now I changed the timing, so it's got a little. Mine has a little more of a swagger. Just to give it a different feel. So that's how I started this thing, and that's why I came up with that, or why I started it was. I was thinking Wildwood Flower. Now here's a little sidebar that you can remember. If you're trying to write a song or write a composition, you don't have to start from a complete blank canvas. You can start with something that's already out there. So that's what I did in this case, and I do that often. I'll take just a few notes of something. So I took the beginning of Wildwood Flower and I started with that. Now it went in a whole different direction, but it makes it easier. Somehow the psychology of having a stake in the ground from something that's already out there and established, it gives you a little extra confidence that those are valid notes. So to me, those notes are valid. They're proven the test of time. So I can start with that and use that as an anchor point. And that's just me, and maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but I don't always do that, but if I'm stuck, and trying to think of something, I start with something that I know, like that. And it could be something like Happy Birthday, it could be anything. But anyway, we're starting with that. And then I strum the C chord, the top part. Now I've got my ring finger still off, so I'm just playing 4, 3, 2, and 1 out of that chord. Then I come to the 2nd fret 3rd string, and then slide up to the 5th fret on the 3rd string. Now what is this? That's the melody part, but what is that? How am I coming up with those notes? Well, the easy answer is it's just the C major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Any of those notes in that scale are going to work. And I could sit and write an entire composition out of just those 7 notes in the major scale. And that's what I did. So, those came from it. Then I came up to that C note in the scale, right? Now, I could have, the song is still staying on the C chord, but it doesn't make sense for me to go and jump back and forth between this note and this chord, the C chord down here. So what I ended up doing was I thought, well, what else? Where else is there a C chord? And I'm always thinking this way. As I'm playing something, I'm picturing, I can superimpose with my vision like Superman. I can see the, all the different C chords. They sort of light up in my mind. So I'm seeing one here, one here, one here, and so forth. So I came up, since I was in this position, I was thinking of the C chord here, which is using the A chord shape out of Caged. Well, I don't need to make the full chord. I don't have time to do it in the timing of this. All I need is this triad. 4, 3, and 2. Strings 4, 3, and 2 on the 5th fret. Right? They're in that chord. So what I played then, I just quickly, it's probably not a very efficient way to do it. There's probably a smarter way to do it. But that's what I ended up doing. And if you watch that video at the end of this, you'll see me talking about this and going to this position. Why did I hit this note instead of this note? Because it has a different feel to slide in. You know, the more comfortable you get with these chords and the positions, you start to think about, you're not thinking so specifically about the notes. That's boring, but this sounds more like somebody singing to me. So that's why I slid up into this position. Then I played the C chord there. And now on the end of the video, I played something like, and came down to the F chord like that. So I'm going from the 1 to the 4 chord. So I know I'm going to the F chord. And that's nice. But I thought from a lesson material, what would make more sense would be for me to use the F chord up here. Since I'm already barring there on the 5th fret and playing that triad, all I have to do to play the F chord is put 2 fingers down in addition to that bar. That's the Keith Richards 1 to the 4, right, that I'm always talking about. So that's what I did. I very quickly went into this chord with the melody leading into it. So that melody, while that's barred, is I'm hammering onto the 6th fret 2nd string, back to that 5th fret, 7th fret 3rd string, 5th fret 3rd string, and then I go into the F chord and play 4, 3, 2. Alright, so let's back it up from the beginning and put it together. It's going to start to sound like something now, so check it out. Right? It's already starting to take shape and sound like a song. And then I went. So to get from the F back to the C, I just played. So while I'm holding down that F chord that we were just on, I'm going to play the 3rd string, and then I'm going to play strings 3 and 2 with my pinky going down on the 7th fret 3rd string, the hammer on, then coming off, and then I go down and hit string 4, which is behind that F chord. So I hold the F chord down the whole time, and then take those off and play the C chord. So right? Okay, now we're going to go back to the C, and to get back I went, played a classic bluegrass style lick. And let me show you how to play this, and then I'll show you how to use this as a great filler going forward, and a little takeaway lick here. So all I'm doing to play it is I'm playing the open 6th string, 1, 2, 3. So open 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to play open on the 5th string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. And make sure you're playing that 3rd fret with your ring finger so that you can go in with your other fingers and play the C chord. So you have. Alright, so a great little fill lick that I often use if I'm playing kind of a bluegrass style in the key of C is that same lick, but I come in on the and of 3. Let me show you how it works. So you go 1 and 2 and 3. Isn't that cool? So it's open 1, 2, 3, open 1, 2, 3. That's a little different than what I've played before, but it's pretty close. And that's where I got that lick was from that bluegrass thing, that little bluegrass thing that I've always done in the key of C. All right, so backing up we have now once I come into that C, I play the notes like that, arpeggiated, 5, 4, 3, 2. Just picking the notes out of the C chord. And then I went, let's look at that. Another bluegrass style lick. And again, now this is where I'm starting to stray from pure melody. Everything was sounding very melodic up until this point. That doesn't sound like a melody, and it's not. That's just a fill lick that I knew. So I just threw that in. And even this is really just another lick that I know. But I thought I sort of made it work. And so this is kind of a combination of licks and me trying to target notes out of a melody. And when I don't really have anything in mind per se, I just throw in a lick that I know. And this is another one of those. So it's the open 1 string, 4th fret 2nd string, back to the open 1 string. And then we play 3rd fret 1st string, 5th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 1st string, back to the 3rd fret 1st string. So all together it goes. Okay, and then I went to get us to the G chord. Now we're getting to the 5 chord. So to do that, I'm holding down that 3rd fret 1st string, and I'm going to do 2 half bends on the 5th fret 2nd string while I play the 3rd fret 1st string. It has a real cool, very twangy sound. And then I come down and play that. Now what is that? So that's the 3rd fret strings 1 and 2, but in my head, I'm just thinking about the G bar chord. I'm playing 2 notes out of it, right? And then to embellish on that, I went really nice G sus4 chord to the G. So after that, then I'm thinking about, again, I'm still thinking about that G chord, G bar chord, but I'm playing the triad, so the top part of the bar chord, strings 1, 2, and 3. And to do that, if you play this triad, so you've got the bar there on the 3rd fret, strings 1 and 2, you've got your middle finger on the 4th fret 3rd string. There's the triad. A little embellishment off that triad that I use all the time, and it sounds so pretty, is that sound there. So I'm going to hammer onto the 5th fret 3rd string, and then play strings 2 and 1, back to the 5th fret 3rd string, and then take it off and play the triad. So now there's a lot of mileage you could get from that right there. I use that all the time if I'm playing something, especially when I'm playing something kind of slow and melodic like this. So if you're playing an F, or I'm sorry, an A now, and you wanted to do that same embellishment, so you can get it now, right? You can picture that embellishment off of the chord shape, right? So you just picture that bar chord shape and you can do that. Okay, so let's back it up from the beginning. Alright, so now we're going to go back to the C chord. And I was just thinking of that. C major scale. But that sounds kind of boring. Right? What if I went... Now it's sounding more interesting, right? So now I'm playing chromatically. 5th fret, 2nd string, 4th fret, 3rd fret, down to the 1st fret on the 2nd string. But then let's take it to the next level. Now it's sounding even more interesting. So now I'm going 5th fret, 6th fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 1st. Okay, so and this is just sort of my thought process. I take something simple and then start looking at other ways I can do it. Okay, now the next thing that I did was harmonize with it. Why not? You've got your extra note right there. It's very easy to find. That's how I played it. So what I'm doing for that is I've got my ring finger on the 5th fret 2nd string, and then I'm playing the 5th fret 4th string. So I'm picking that note with my pick, 5th fret 4th string. I'm plucking that note, that 2nd string, with my ring finger. It's a hybrid pick. Here's how you can easily picture this going forward. Remember, we're getting into the C chord. This is all played over a C chord. So look at this. C chord, using the A chord shape. Okay, so it's just 2 notes that are already in that C chord. So what I'm doing is I'm walking from this C chord to this C chord. Look at the shapes. C, C. And I'm just connecting it that way. So hopefully a light bulb went off and you can picture what's going on there. You're just going from this C chord to this C chord. But by only playing those 2 notes, it gives it a much different feel and a different sound. It's a harmonized 6. Sounds very Chet Atkins to me. Okay, so that gets us down to the C. And then I wanted to play a C7 because I'm going to the F and so forth and so on. So after we get to the C, I walk down to this note, the 3rd fret, 3rd string, because that note is in the C7 chord. I was targeting that note. That's the most important note in that part. I was trying to get that because it's a good transition note. So if you know you're going from a C chord to an F chord, from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, one thing that always works is to play the 1 chord, then play the dominant 7 of the 1 chord, and then the 4 chord. So you play C, C dominant 7, F. See how it resolves nicely to hear that C, C7, F. And so that's what I was doing. C to the C7. That's just that 1st fret open on the 2nd string, and then you play the C7 chord. And I played strings 5, 4, and 3. And the C7 chord is just your C chord with your pinky there on the 3rd fret, 3rd string. So after that C7, I went to get us to the F chord. Now let me show you this. This is a slide from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and then you play the 3rd fret 1st string. So we do that slide there, and then we go back down. So up and then down. Back to the 3rd fret, 1st fret 2nd string, and then I go into the F chord. And look at that. That's that same triad, just like we did for the G chord. It's the same thing, but I'm doing it here. I'm just playing strings 3, 2, and 1. Now let me just expand on this. Anytime I'm playing anything in the key of C, I always know that I've got, so if I'm picturing this C chord, I know that where my ring finger is, which would be on the 3rd fret, I've got a little box here between the 3rd fret and the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and the 3rd fret and the 5th fret on the 1st string. So much music can be made out of that box when you're playing in C. You can play stuff like that. You can play blues, right? Walk it down. There's all kinds of ideas that come out of that. And if you listen to blues guys like Big Bill Brunsey, for example, he plays a lot in the key of C, and I hear him using that. Really cool. And I hear him go, right? Real. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. I'll show you that lick. But so we have into the C, C7. There's that little box that I just showed you. Okay, so to the F chord, 3, 2, 1. So I went 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So it's kind of did it twice. Open third string, and then the F minor. So for the F minor, I'm borrowing the first 3 strings on the first fret. I'm just playing those. I'm not playing the full bar chord. I'm just playing that. That's all you need of it. And you see me, if you watch that video at the end, you'll see me kind of going into that F to the F minor thing, and I explain that in a little more detail, at least the thought process of that. But that's just something I use often if I'm looking for a creative, pretty way to get from the 4 chord back to the 1 chord. I showed you how to go from the 1 to the 4 by putting that dominant 7. Now if we're going from the 4 back to the 1, you can throw in a minor version of the 4 and then back to the 1. Okay, so and then I went after the F minor, I went and put my pinky down on the 3rd fret 1st string, and that's just a pretty little embellishment that I know off of that minor chord. And then we go back to that box that I just showed you and go into this great little blues thing. So we're going back to the C chord. I'm sliding back to that 5th fret 2nd string, 3rd fret 1st string, and I gave it some vibrato. And what I'm doing, those are triplets, triplet, triplet. It'd be 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1. Just alternate 2 1 2 1 2 1. Okay, and then we walk that down to here. Now here's another takeaway. This represents your C chord, right? So think of your C chord using the A shape, and think of the top part of that. And I mentioned that in that cage lesson on EP360, where I've got the A chord shape and then the top part of the A chord shape. That's how I always think of caged. If you look at that top part, now I'm still playing a C chord. That's where that's coming from. So that represents a C chord. Just remember, store that away. If you want to play a C chord, you can play one like this. You can play one like this. This, if you walk that down 2 frets, that represents a G7 chord. Because if I look at the notes in a G7, those are 2 notes in that chord. So now I've got an easy way to get from my 1 chord to my 5 chord. So you can remember that if you're going from the 1 to the 5, you can just go down 2 frets if you're playing that little harmonized third. Okay. Now once I get to this G, I played that. So I'm going to keep my index finger on the 1st fret 1st string, and then I'm going to, while I've got my ring finger on that 3rd fret 2nd string, I'm going to do half bends. 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, and then release. And then 1st fret 2nd string, 2nd fret 3rd string, back to the 1st fret 2nd string. So you've got, and then after that, I go ahead and make the rest of the C chord. Now that is a big Bill Brunzi lick for sure. And so this, if you're playing a C and you want something really bluesy, look at what you can do. You keep your index finger where it would be if you're playing a C chord, but then you come up here to that 2nd string on the 3rd fret and do half bends, not full bends. Isn't that cool? It's a nice little blues lick that you can throw into that C chord. Alright, so let me back up and play through this, and then I'm going to save the tag. That's where we go back to the G7, F, and C, but I do some bluesy stuff. I'm going to save that tag for premium members, so that'll be in the part 2 video. Alright, so I'm going to back up. Here we go. So I'm just sitting around with some basic chords. I'm looking at like a C chord, an F, and a G, a 1, 4, 5. Like, what can I do with that? You know, what can I do that would be simple but meaningful? And so what I'm doing is I'm playing around with some melody ideas. You know, something like that. Or so there's a C chord, and then there's 3 notes I'm putting into it. And you know, that's Wildwood Flower, right? But if I just started with, see, I can hear another part. There's the first part. There's the second part. So let's look at that. Now I have nothing in my head here. I'm just, there's nothing pre-planned. While I'm up here, I can play the C chord up here using that triad. That's your C chord using the A chord shape out of Cage, right? Right? And a way to get to the 4 chord. Now that's just your C major scale. Some notes out of that. Down to the F chord. And then a way to get back to the 1 chord. So it's just the 1 chord 4 to the 5. Now I could go, so once I'm at the F, I could do that to get to the C, or if I wanted to sound more blues, see, I could throw in that lick. That would be your minor pentatonic scale. So it just depends on where I'm going in my head with it, but I kind of like that. Now that, I don't know. Now what would be your chord? Your G chord, right? Actually a G7. Right into the C7. And then watch this. There's the F minor. Why did I go to a minor there? Well, that's just something that happens a lot. You'll hear the 4 chord and then the minor version of the 4 chord back to the 1 chord. It's a Beatles trick. Or I think of the Beatles, not a Beatles trick. Back to the 1 chord. To the 5 chord. Back to the 1 chord. So there, you know, there you have something. Now I have no idea if I probably won't even use this, but I'm just using this as a demonstration to explain the thought process behind that. So if I were to go back and try and remember what I was doing. Right, there's a little classic G lick. By the way, that's Arlo snoring in the background if you're wondering what that is. Right, some kind of an ending. But that's really the thought process. And I realize if you're new to guitar, new to music in general, that can seem overwhelming, but that's really all there is to it. It's not like I'm sitting down with a pen and paper and getting into theory or anything. It's just little pieces of ideas, you know. I started with the Wildwood Flower, because when I play a C chord, I think of that. Right? It's just where my hand goes, because that was one of the first songs I learned to play. So that's just a lick. So take little pieces of songs that you know already, or licks that you know already, and see what you can do to work those in, or at least use those as starting points to try and work out some kind of a melody. Hopefully that's been helpful or somewhat interesting, but at least that's my thought process. So I would just take this and I would record it now with my phone, and I'd listen to it, and I'd start working out things and determine if there needs to be a jam track and all of that. All right, well, that's a little look at my thought process anyway. All right, bye.